I keep telling a lot of other hosts in India that you have to be very patient because in India, even the guests are still learning how to use Airbnb and they are learning what is the distinction between a hotel and an Airbnb.
Welcome to the Airbnb Tales podcast. This is your host, Manish Paul Simon, and this podcast is all about hosting and Airbnb travel stories in and around India and also around the world. Today we have with us Indrajeet Ghorpade, who is a super host and has been hosting for the past 3 years. He hosts his ancestral home in Panchgani, Maharashtra, and he hosts remotely. He's currently working for Facebook in Hyderabad. And guess how he gets his hosting done? With the help of a local village family called the Vatkar family, which has in turn helped them build a living for themselves. And we'll get into the details. Yeah, so tell us something about yourself, Indrajit.
Hey, thanks for having me on your show. And yeah, I started hosting around 3.5 years ago. And the whole idea of, getting on Airbnb was because we had all visiting our place and the maintenance costs were going too high. So we were planning to sell it off, but we didn't want the Wadkar family who had been staying there for so long. And then I decided let's give Airbnb a try. And even if we can cover like the basic minimum maintenance costs and the salary that we used to pay the Wadkars, then we are good to keep the property. And hence started my journey. Initially, there were around 9 to 10 listings in Panchgani, and that kind of gave me a head start.
Okay. But how did you hear about Airbnb before, you got into
Right.
hosting and all that?
I don't exactly remember how I heard about it, but as a guest, I stayed at various places in Goa, in Pondicherry, and I had had a really good experience. So I instantly knew that this is going to like really pick up well in India, especially because a lot more people were now looking forward to travel and looking for more reasonably charged and more cozy accommodations. So yeah, that's why I decided to onboard on Airbnb.
Right. So when you started off hosting, you obviously didn't have those communities helping you out, right? So how did you start? Like, was it on your own and then you got them to help you out?
Uh, I started by myself. Uh, by who are you referring to? Like who
The
wasn't there?
Vatkar family, exactly.
Oh yeah, so they stay at the property in an outhouse, so they were always present.
So right from the get-go, they were part of your hosting, is it?
Yes, yes. The only challenge was they weren't like anyway trained in hospitality and did not know the tricks of the trade. So initially, it was a bit of a challenge. There was language barriers. A lot of my guests were from Pune and Mumbai, so not all of them could speak Marathi. But slowly, as I kind of got more structure to this, I started more sharing. I started sharing more information with the guests. Things kind of became easier. Even with more and more experience, they also kind of got more confidence to manage situations by themselves instead of calling me for everything. And yeah, now it's reached a pretty smooth state where even they feel kind of empowered sometimes to take like some tiny decisions themselves if ever there is any kind of a situation or a confusion with the guests. And in turn, like even from my end, I have matured to a level where I know exactly what all information needs to be shared with the guests, how to make sure that they read all of it, and leaving no stone unturned for any surprises when someone enters the house.
Yeah, that's great. So you're the first point of contact, and then you transfer the information to them, right?
Yes, me and my sister, she's a co-host. So both of us are the first point of contact. And post that, I think once post check-in, everything is taken care, almost everything is taken care by the Vadkars.
Okay, super. And what I read about your article on Airbnb community was the Vatka family through the years has helped them, send their daughters to school and also build a house for themselves. Is that true?
Oh yeah, that's an interesting story. So just some background. So very first guest who came there, I wanted to make sure that the first guest has a brilliant experience. I had read a lot online about deliver that 5-star experience. So I did all of that. And when she checked out, I called her just to know how her stay was and if she has any feedback. And something that she was really happy about was the home cooked food that she got. And I wasn't aware of this. So Mrs. Wadkar, her name is Sunita, she helped her out
So one
weekend.
sec, yeah. So yeah, you were talking about your first guest in your place and how he was surprised by the really good food that Mrs. Sunita had made and all that.
Exactly. So I wasn't aware of this until like the guest told me that they had food at our place and that was cooked by Sunita. And then because our place is like quite far away from the main Panchgani market, there's no like food delivery system or anything available.
So
And
that was
when
not part of your listing, is it? The food and all that.
so I mentioned that we have a equipped kitchen and guests can use it if they want to cook. But I soon realized that when you're on a vacation, the last thing you want to possibly do, like not everyone wants to sit and cook lunch and
Yeah,
dinner.
exactly.
So I spoke to Sunita and I'm like, would she be to, help the guests cook going ahead? And, they can charge whatever they want and discuss that. So I left that part completely to them. And that kicked off pretty well. We soon created a very small menu with like options for home cooked food. And my mom shared a few recipes because earlier their list of recipes were like very limited to very, very basic home style
Right,
Maharashtra
right. So
food.
you had a menu with price and everything.
Correct. Correct. And I made sure that I informed the guests that all the profits will go directly to the Wadkar. So I was like nowhere responsible if there was any shortage or if they were unable to make it or like if there were any issues. But it became super popular. She makes the best chicken curry and bhakri. Bhakri is like
Bakri
jowar
is a local
roti.
dish, is it?
Yeah, yeah. It's a jowar and bajra roti.
Wow, okay.
Yeah.
So
So
what are the top dishes that sell
I
in
think
your place? Yeah.
the chicken thali is the topmost one.
Okay, okay, great.
And mom taught her to make aloo paratha because aloo paratha was like very growing in demand for breakfast.
Right,
So
right.
that is also like one of the topmost dishes. A lot of guests mentioned it in their reviews. So that went on pretty well, and eventually they started making a good sum, from the food. And in 3.5 years, I think they have managed to build their own house in a nearby valley village where they have their extended family staying. And even through the income that I started getting through Airbnb, it was more than what we needed for maintaining the place. So we kind of partially started funding their daughter's education, and my dad is like super aware about what all different government schemes and yojnas are there for girl daughters, sorry, for girl childs. So he made sure that, first of all, he made sure that they got a bank account and then they could avail and benefit from all these schemes just so that their future is secured.
Right. So from the idea of selling your villa 3 years back to, helping a small family in that village build a, living for themselves, that's truly an inspiring story, Jeet.
Thank you. It is quite an experience for me as well because when I started off, I never thought it will ever reach this point. Uh, I had zero idea about how much people would possibly use Airbnb and what the occupancy would look like. But I mean, it's got a phenomenal.
Right. And right from, I mean, you're an entrepreneur, of course, and this has also helped those guys become micro entrepreneurs, right? A small
Right.
entrepreneurship within entrepreneurship. So that's
Exactly.
pretty cool.
Exactly. In fact, now they are planning to. So they also bought a bike recently.
Okay, great.
And just a few couple of months ago, one of the guests requested to like borrow the bike to go around, and he just lent it to them. He didn't charge anything, but like while checking out, those guys themselves like they paid them for the bike. So now he's also considering that when he doesn't need it, and if he have guests over, like he could start renting out his bike, and maybe like in future purchase a couple of cycles to go around because Panchgani is very scenic and can be best experience on a cycle if you want to go to like the remotest points in the forests and around.
Okay, so talking about Panchgani, tell us more about, Panchgani. What is so attractive in Panchgani that people should visit it?
It is the closest weekend breakaway from Pune and Bombay. And it's a hill station that was kind of developed by some of the British officers. It's well known for its educational facilities and for a very. If you have watched Tare Zameen Par, like the school that's
Yeah,
shown in the
oh,
book.
right, that's from Panchgani, is
Yeah.
it?
Yeah, and the other big attraction is Mapro. If you have heard of the company, they make jellies and jams and syrups. So they have a beautiful thing there called Mapro Garden where you can see how all these things are made and you can also taste them. So these are like two of the biggest attractions. And apart from that, like it's in the Western Ghats, so like the natural beauty and the flora and the fauna is like too
Yeah,
good.
yeah,
Very
absolutely.
good.
Yeah. So, have you started a tourism guide for Panchgani, or is it in the making?
So on Airbnb itself, you can make a guidebook. So I keep adding more places to it as and when I find it.
No,
And
as in like, do you show I mean, those people who are staying in your place, the Vatka family, do they show the guests around or something like that?
not really, not yet.
Okay,
I haven't even considered from that point. But yeah, that is one good area to explore. Yeah. Something he has helped his friend to become a micro entrepreneur is his one of his friends who was a strawberry farmer very close by at maybe a walking distance from our place. So I kind of asked them if we can have the whole strawberry picking experience during the harvest, where you just go in with a basket and you pick as many strawberries as you want and then you weigh them. A lot of farmers are skeptical because guests are super unruly and they will like maybe trample the harvest or they'll uproot the whole plant while plucking and all of that. So they would never allow. But I kind of started again. I made a list of instructions how to do's and don'ts of once you enter the farm. And all my guests during the harvest season get to have that experience. So this farmer friend of Adkar's, his name is Mr. I forgot his name. His last name is Bilare. So he also kind of gets to make money from the strawberry picking experience, and he had a car. So a lot of guests who don't come to Panchgani with their own transport, like he started renting out his car directly to them.
great.
So
So
kind
you
of a
built a big ecosystem out there,
yeah, if you have
man.
to if you have to manage remotely, you have to have a lot of people supporting you.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, so you had more than 500 guests so far in your place. Who do you
yeah.
think was your favorite guest? Or do you have any good stories to tell?
That's an interesting one. There are some guests that you kind of stay in touch with.
And what is the percentage of, Indian guests or foreign guests? Is it like 50-50 or more foreign guests staying in your
Oh
place?
no, my all like almost 99% of my guests are Indian guests. I don't think Panchgani is so much of an attraction for like foreign tourists. It's mostly like people from Bombay and Pune, where it's more popular.
Right. And you host up to 9-10 people, right?
Yes, yes,
I mean,
yeah.
if I'm not wrong, yeah.
Yeah, in fact, earlier when I started, we had put it up for six guests only because our place can comfortably accommodate six people. But then I had requests of people saying that, oh, we are a group of 10, it's a family, and we really like your place, but we want to stay in the same place. So I was like, as long as you guys are okay adjusting and, you know, being okay, I mean, you're more than welcome. And that went on pretty well. So I had to add a few extra mattresses and all of that. But yeah, if people are okay with that small compromise of space, I have hosted more than 10 people as well.
Okay, right. So go ahead and give us an example of when you had any different kind of an experience or hosting someone who had a different kind of an experience or an interesting story that you would like to say.
Okay, there is one. So I had this family from Bhopal who wanted to visit Panchgani, which is very rare. Like I said, it's only people living close by who usually come. And they wanted to come from for a pretty long time, for almost 5 to 6 days. And one of their family members was wheelchair bound. And none of the properties in Mahabaleshwar and Panchgani were like wheelchair friendly. Uh, the conventional hotels, and those that were like super expensive, obviously. So because they wanted to come for a longer time, they were very keen on staying at my place, and my place is not wheelchair friendly. We do have steps and all of that. So they were pretty adamant that they wanted to stay at my place. And I said that I'll try my best, but there was very little I could possibly do. So I spoke to Adkar and I'm like, can we kind of have sort of a like, can you help him, like maybe lift the chair while getting in, or what can you do? And he said, don't worry about it, and I'll figure it out. And this was an instant booking, so they were arriving like in 2 days, so I didn't even feel like declining.
Right, right.
And Vadkar just said, I'll figure it out. And I'm like, okay. Then I spoke to the guest as well, and I'm like, listen, like this, you're really taking a risk. I'm sure you'll get in, but then it will be a little difficult. But even they said that okay, they'll manage. And I was super nervous. I'm like, what if they just can't enter the house, and that will be so disappointing. And to my surprise, in those 1.5 days, Vadkar had managed to put a small wooden ramp at our main entrance where we have the steps to get in.
Right, like a Jugaad scene.
Exactly, exactly. In order to get that, and everything is like, DIY, nothing fancy. He just found some, wooden planks from somewhere and he made that ramp and he put it up there. And these guys called me and they're like, hey, we have checked in. It's amazing. Everything is great. One of the attractions of our place is the balcony, which is on the first floor, and
Okay.
you can see fireflies from there in the night.
Oh,
So
nice.
that
Wow.
really attracts people. So again, you have to take the stairs to go up, but people from his family and Vadkar and everyone, they managed to take the chair upstairs along with our guest, and I was super humbled and super impressed with what they managed to do. And even the guests were like so happy that Vadkar was so helpful, and I did not decline their booking despite of knowing that there are going to be challenges. So that was one experience that like really kind of made me believe that if you have to host and if you're willing to host, then
You have to
anything.
go above and beyond.
Yeah, yeah.
Awesome, awesome. Have you had any negative experiences or negative?
Many.
Oh, yeah.
So I keep telling a lot of other hosts in India that you have to be very patient because in India, even the guests are still learning how to use Airbnb and they are learning what is the distinction between a hotel and an Airbnb. A lot of people don't realize that. And then the very first thing that you have to explain them is like, hey, this is our home. And that's why in all my communication, I never refer to it as property or rooms. I'll always call it home so that it's very clear that you're entering someone's house. Negative experience are like same thing, people checking in and realizing that, oh, this is not a hotel, or this is very rare, but like people trying
Yeah, they have
to.
a lot of expectations, right? They think
Exactly. They have like super high expectations. And with like Oyos and all these cheaper chains that we have got, I mean, the expectations are super high. And sometimes you just got to like tell them that, hey, this is a home and everything is not going to be perfect. Something that I had to change, like one of the reasons why I had to come up with the menu and this whole home cooking thing had to be done was initially I had stayed at a few international Airbnbs and they would just stock up the fridge and it would be like use whatever you want. So I started that way. There used to be eggs and breads and milk and fruits, but a lot of guests would just like take everything away while checking out. So I'm like, this is not going to help at
oh,
all.
right. Is it? Okay.
Yeah, because it's a 3 4 hour journey back to Bombay and 2.5 to Pune. So I don't know like for what purpose, but
Yeah.
they would just
Yeah.
take away 24 eggs and I'm like, oh my God.
Okay.
So I had to do something about it, and that is when I actually thought, okay, let's keep a menu and let's keep like they call this the Indigo model, like you pay for everything that you take. So that also makes it easy for people who don't want to spend so much on all these other things and just want accommodation, and they can just pick whatever added amenities they want and they can pay for those.
Okay. So, do you educate your guests, telling them, see, this is not a hotel, there may be shortcomings and all that?
Yeah, that's the very first thing that has to be done. Like, I think now more and more guests know how Airbnb works and what it is. But like 3.5 years ago, they didn't have a very clear idea of the distinction. I think these days there is a lot more awareness.
And
Yeah.
how do you deal with the negative reviews in case you have any, negative?
Uh, First thing is to acknowledge that yes, there are shortcomings. Like initially, I used to get super defensive, like how dare you write that about my home?
Yeah.
Yeah, the first thing is like acknowledge that okay, they did have a bad experience. So I will give Vadkar a call to discuss what happened, and then I'll give the guests a call to understand if it is something serious. Then I'll give them a call to understand what exactly happened, and just leaving a response like specifically to the negative reviews is very very important because when someone else is booking, they will obviously look at the positives, but the negative will always stand out. So if you have a valid justification or if you are planning to make improvements, always responding to that review and mentioning that there, helps the future guests to like be assured that okay, fine, these guests are like receptive and they are making change.
Yeah.
So
You
that
can
is
actually make out in the reviews as well, like, what kind of guests are
right.
writing those in.
Yeah.
purpose on purpose, or just for the sake of putting you down, something like that.
And it's very tricky in India because if you know, all throughout our schooling, giving 100 marks is never a, at least in like state boards where I studied, you'll always get like 1 mark less either for your handwriting or for something. So that is how people have been brought up, and giving a 5 star is like, oh my God, like no, it has to be a 4 for, this wasn't there or this was not as good. So I have stopped bothering myself with not getting a 5 star. Initially, I would like really try super hard, but then I realized some guests just don't, you know, give good ratings. Like there was one guest who throughout his stay, I was in touch and kept telling me that he was having a really good time and everything was going well. And when he wrote the reviews, it said that I had a really good time, and then there was a paragraph of negatives.
Oh, right.
It's like, whoa, like why didn't you tell me this before? And I spoke to him and I wasn't pretty convinced with the rationale he was giving. And then somehow I kind of, looked up for who this person is and on Google I found out that this person is an avid reviewer. He will review everything right from the pawn shop outside his house and will never give anything above a 3 star. Like, okay, hands up. I can't do much about this now.
Yeah, but the best part is you're still a Airbnb super host, right? In spite of all this.
I'm not right now. I
Okay.
think the more you grow and the more reviews you get, it is very hard to continue staying in Airbnb Superhost because their algorithmic has this punishment approach.
Yeah.
So the more
A
reviews
little
you
harsh.
have,
Yeah.
exactly, the more reviews you have, even if you get like 1, 4, or 3 star, you need a lot more 5 star reviews then to cover up for that. So I have now stopped bothering myself.
Yeah, but I feel it doesn't matter once you reach a certain threshold, like
Yeah,
100 reviews or 200
yeah,
reviews.
yeah. It doesn't matter as much.
Yeah. And have you had any instances of where you had to report to Airbnb of some guests, maybe damaging a property or something?
Not really. There was one time when one of the guests dropped the TVs and that broke, but they were very nice. Like they themselves called me and they're like, "We are very sorry, the TV fell, and we will arrange for the repair." Or like, so yeah, I haven't had any negative experience as such where I had to report.
Okay, so what is your future plans going ahead with, hosting in Airbnb? Are you still planning to do the remote hosting and travel around the world or something like that?
Yes, it will be remote hosting as well because my job doesn't allow me to work from Panchgani. And something that I'm thinking of now is because this whole strawberry thing is big in Panchgani, and some popular dishes that people like to have are like strawberry with cream and
Oh, wow, okay.
strawberry mastani, which is strawberry milkshake with ice cream and all of those. So I'm considering adding those to the menu. It is not that difficult to prepare. So I just need to visit once and chat with
So
Sunita
you're
and
planning to build a brand.
not a brand, but just adding more to the menu to make it, more attractive. Because I've learned like one very big way to make people happy is through food. If you get good food, people are very happy with their vacations.
I think even when they come and stay at your place, the first thing which a big turn on for them is the food,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. So I'm like, let's try to like leverage on that factor and see where we can get. And apart from that, there's a big plastic ban in Maharashtra. Panchgani already had it, so I'm also thinking. I spoke to Wadkar the other day that if he is willing, does he wants to start selling like cloth bags, umbrellas, uh, other essentials that might be needed during a trip for going out. So he's open to that. I just need to find the right products and start keeping them there.
Yeah, but how are you managing all of this? You have a 9 to 5 job probably, and you host remotely, and you're doing multiple entrepreneur scenes. I mean, it's really, impressive. So how do you do this?
So that's the thing. I have my sister who's a co-host, and she's still studying. So I think she's probably the youngest host in India right
She
now.
stays in Pune, is it?
She stays in Pune, yes.
Okay, okay.
So whenever I have a hectic schedule at work for myself, like she has been a co-host for more than a year now. So she's also got like that sufficient level of confidence to manage situations. So
Great.
that really helps to have a helping hand.
Few things. Do you have any tips, for Airbnb hosts, especially a remote host?
Yes. Communication is key, especially if you're hosting remotely, because the more detailed and precise information you give, the lesser the chances of any confusion happening once the guest checks in. So that is like one of the biggest things that I've learned over all these years, that keep your communication super detailed and accurate and precise, and make sure your guests have read that, because initially my communication was like super detailed but not precise, so people wouldn't bother to read through all the paragraphs.
Right.
But now I have like key points listed down, which are like basic essentials for guests to know, and that has really helped.
Like, do you have a Facebook page, or apart from Airbnb, do you host elsewhere as well? Like on maybe on
Not on any other platform.
okay,
I do have a Facebook page though, and I
off the
have
listing, is it?
yeah, yeah, yeah. I have a Facebook page of the listing, and I have also like pinned it on Google. So I initially used to also, just request some of my guests to leave reviews on Google. So yeah, some of them do come from like Facebook and Google, but I haven't tried any other
Google,
platform.
as in it shows up on location and all that.
Yeah, yeah. On Google, if you search for like homestay in Panchgani, I think it appears on some eighth
So
result.
you got that done through that My Business Google, is it?
Yes, I think on G Plus, if you can create a business profile, like it started with I wanted my place to be on maps so that people can locate it, and that whole process, it's very wholesome. So like it includes everything. Your website is like auto generated. It's everywhere.
And it's
Once,
free.
yeah, it's free. It's
Oh,
free.
super. Okay. I think that's a great tip. Like, and you received this host award from Airbnb India, right? So what is that story in 2016, right?
Yes. So that was a first Airbnb India host event that Airbnb had organized in Bombay. And I was super active that time on Airbnb community forum.
Okay.
So that's like a forum for international, like guests from hosts from everywhere. And there's a lot to learn because, people from all over the world are sharing their experiences. And I kind of got hooked to it and started interacting a lot. And and there's a India Airbnb host Facebook group as well that is run by Airbnb. So I used to pick suggestions and tips from there and keep sharing it here. And overall, I think I was like super active in keeping that group active, which is why they had given me a small award to just recognize those efforts.
So you kind of use social media in a big way as well in your hosting journey.
Yes. My next goal is actually to connect all the hosts in Panchgani, because over the years, a lot more people have joined, and a lot of them are hosts. So I'm sure if all of us can connect with each other, there'll be a lot to gain.
But you're the best host out there, right? In terms of competition and all that.
In terms of number of reviews, yes. But I'm sure there are other hosts. Some of them are my friends who have like really amazing properties. I've stayed at their place actually, because every time I get to go is when I have a vacation, and that's the time my place is always booked. So there have been a couple of times where I've actually stayed at some of the other hosts in Panchgani, and they are fabulous as well.
And you guys learn off each other.
Yes, yes,
Nice.
yeah,
And you've traveled overseas as well and stayed in overseas Airbnbs, right?
true, true.
So how do you feel Airbnb hosting out there is compared to India?
Uh,
What do you think of the Indian hospitality?
hmm. Each experience was pretty different. Uh, in India, what I've seen is whenever I've stayed with hosts who are staying at their own place, not doing remote hosting, there's obviously that added charm of Indian hospitality. You can clearly see it as compared to when I stayed in Paris and when I had stayed in Florence, I guess. They are interactive and super helpful, but like they know very well, like they don't want to be too intrusive. So they like consciously step back and they're like, if you all need us, like we are there. But yeah, if you like, so one of my hosts in Florence, like she welcomed us, and post that she used to be in her room, but like we invited her for dinner with her, and she was more than welcome. And she's like, why go out, like I can make dinner for all of us. So that's one difference that I saw. But apart from that, I think overall Airbnb hosts, like everyone is super passionate about hosting, and that is why most of them are on Airbnb. So it's been nice. If you know how to select the right places, I think you always end up having a good experience.
Right. And you have big plans to host in other places as well?
Not as of now, but I'm helping some of my friends who recently bought houses to start hosting.
So you're doing the co-host program as well, is it? No.
Yes, yes.
Oh yeah, okay. How has Airbnb hosting changed your life?
Hmm, I think I got a lot more exposure to, especially through the community center that Airbnb has. Like I got more exposure to international hosting standards and knowing the struggles and the wins of like our international hosts to an extent where now I have some brilliant friendships developed with hosts from like various cities around. So I definitely know I have like a free stay if I go to Hawaii. I know
Oh
I have a
yeah, okay.
yeah. So that really helps when you have this big international network. And that has been like one really big change. Also, apart from that, like this is like a family project for us, which has brought my family a lot more closer because it's not just me. Like everyone's involved. My dad takes care of some sections, my mom takes care of a few sections, and my sister is a co-host. So it's become like this big family project where all of us are involved. So our WhatsApp group chat has
Oh,
more
you
messages,
guys have a WhatsApp group as well.
of course.
Awesome.
So it always has messages about who's coming, what's going on, and all of that. So in a way, it has got us closer because there's a lot more interaction between all of us.
That's great. That's great. How's Hyderabad? I mean, it's just a random question, but how's your stay in Hyderabad and everything?
Hyderabad is amazing. I think initially when I moved, I used to cry every day because I didn't get a job in Bangalore because that was my
You
dream
wanted
place.
to work in Bangalore,
Yeah,
is it?
all
Okay.
my friends were in Bangalore, so I'm like, I have to go to Bangalore. But I think over the years, I have now developed immense love for Hyderabad. You get brilliant food. The people are super, super welcoming. So yeah,
Yeah, the
loving it
biryani
here.
there is pretty good, right?
Yes, yes.
Shadab biryani and Paradise
Yeah,
also pretty good, I guess. I'm not
yeah.
sure. Okay, super. What is the one thing that you feel I should have asked but didn't?
Uh, I can't think of any. I think we have almost covered everything.
Okay, just tell me something about more about your life, apart from Airbnb. What is your goals in life? What are you planning to do in the future and all that?
Wow. Uh, I don't have any set goals, but I work at Facebook. There's a team called Community Operations, Risk and Response. So I basically myself I like serving the community and doing community work heavily. And initially, while I was studying, I was also quite involved in like some local NGOs that were there. And that was one of the reasons I picked up this job because it was not like a regular IT job. My impact directly I could see translating into the real world. So that is where I am, and I plan to continue to be there. And eventually, I think I'm getting more and more involved towards community building as a whole because, especially in cities like ours, like everyone is so occupied and so busy and
Yeah,
limited to their own houses that I feel that people don't interact so much. So I constantly try finding if there are any community spaces, and I've hosted a couple of Airbnb meetups, like informal ones.
nice.
Similarly, venturing into like other causes that I care about, and getting those people together and having these small groups in an intimate setting so that they are more connected is something that I keep working towards.
Pretty cool, man. Guys for your age and thinking, so much about the future and all that. Usually, guys our age, it's all about the pub life and partying and all that, right?
I think I'm almost done with that.
Oh yeah, okay. Okay, great, man. All right, let's get to the quick fire round where I get to ask you about the nitty-gritty of, Airbnb hosting. So, what is the occupancy rate and how do you deal with like, off-season months in your hosting?
uh, on peak seasons, the occupancy rate is almost 70%, and non-peak season, it's always weekends. So there is no like a complete off season. Even during off seasons, like the weekends are usually booked.
Okay, and Mondays to Fridays very rarely gets booked, is it?
Mondays to Thursdays get rarely booked. Usually Friday, Saturday, Sunday are the days which get occupied.
Okay, and the Vatkas, they get a percentage like the co-hosting program or how is it?
They aren't enrolled as co-hosts, so they get a monthly salary as before. Then all the food profits go to them, and for every guest that we host, they also get a percentage on that.
Okay, so but what happens if you have less guests in a month? You still pay the right salary, is it?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay. And how do you manage? Is the running cost and all that manageable? Like water, electricity, and all that.
Yeah, now it kind of is. With the kind of occupancy that I have, the costs are they get covered.
Okay. And what extra provisions or basic amenities do you provide?
I've noticed that toiletries is something that a lot of Airbnbs in India don't have. Like the good ones do have, so I make sure that I have those. I have a fully equipped kitchen for people to cook themselves or like have it cooked by the workers. And yeah, like I mentioned, like I have contacts of Panchgani tours and Mahabaleshwar tours and all of that in place.
Okay. Super.
It's pretty streamlined.
Okay. And you get a percentage of that? Usually it's like that, right?
No, 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 I don't get a percentage of that. Like I said, like my primary goal wasn't to make profit. It was just to make sure that we can keep the house. So I try not to get through that. I recently got a barbecue grill, so that is like a new added attraction where a lot of people like making their own barbecue.
Yeah, I think I read few reviews where some guests were complaining about the barbecue food there.
Yeah, they don't get like now again, I've started explaining better. Initially, they thought that, oh, they just have to like request for it and they will get kebabs made for on the plate.
Yeah.
Like, no, that's an experience. We'll provide you the grill and the coal, and if you want, we can marinate the meat for you, but then you got to do it yourself.
Okay. And do you have any Airbnb pricing tips? Like, do you alter the pricing depending on the season and all that?
My
Like
pricing,
off-season pricing or discount tactics or something like that?
yeah, I slightly inflated during peak seasons, which is, Christmas, New Year's, and Diwali. But apart from that, the pricing is mostly stable. And one tip that I have is sometimes if you're getting, if someone's trying to book for 2 days or more, especially with an occupancy rate like mine, it is okay to slash the prices slightly instead of having a full day uh, empty. So try calculating what is your basic expenditure for hosting for one day. And as long as your pricing is not taking you into losses and you're still making some profit, it's okay to give a short discount because I've seen that whenever guests request for like, they try to negotiate for a price drop. And even if you give them even like a 5%, they're more than happy to book it. So it's not much about the price. It's just about that satisfaction that, oh, we got it for a lesser price.
Okay, super. And do you use any apps or services that helps you run your hosting businesses?
WhatsApp, majorly WhatsApp, because it's way easier to communicate and forward a lot of information and pictures with the guests.
So as soon as your guest is confirmed, you send them the location details and all that, is it?
Yeah, yeah, I send them location details, check-in information, guidebooks, and other tips and everything that they need to know. Also, a lot of them fail to read house rules on the Airbnb platform, so I again reiterate those on WhatsApp.
Okay. So you have a basic forward that you forward to all your guests.
Right, right.
Okay. And do you have you set up a self check-in or there's always someone to,
Because
welcome your guests?
Barca is always there, I
Okay.
don't need like self-check-in.
Okay. Do you charge a cleaning fee for your guests?
Not really. It is kind of included in the main price, but I don't list it out separately.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have any safety features? No, right? Not really.
I
Like,
do.
oh yeah, okay.
I have a fire extinguisher. Then I have a
Oh
carbon
really?
monoxide detector. Yeah, so Airbnb was giving away free carbon monoxide detectors once upon a time is when I had gotten it. And then I bought a fire extinguisher on Amazon. And I have a safety guide printed and put up in the hall and in both the bedrooms. So that again, you can make it from the Airbnb platform. You just need to put in the details and you can print it out. And I have a first aid kit for basic first aid.
Okay. Hey, sorry, man. I didn't get in the details of your house. So yours is a four-bedroom house, right?
Two bedroom, two bedroom.
Two-bedroom villa. Okay. And also, I want to know how you deal with back-to-back bookings. Suppose you have a guest on Friday, Saturday, and then there's another guest on Sunday.
Yeah. Uh, So we know that we have a sufficient amount of linen and everything else that is needed to support three back-to-back bookings. After that, you need to take a pause to like wash everything and make sure it's dried and stuff. So just assessing like your need for what you have is very important, because there was one time when for the first time I got seven back-to-back bookings in December, and that was the time when I realized that there is no time to wash and clean. So I had to like in a hurry purchase extra sets of beddings and everything.
Okay. And
Yeah.
this was done remotely as well.
Yeah. I mean, Vadkar manages the whole washing and
Nice,
cleaning,
nice.
but yeah, that still needs to be some guidance from my end.
Okay. And what kind of guests do you get? Most of them are just coming for the, leisure part or
Yeah,
some.
it's just a weekend getaway from your daily, weekday jobs, because it's so close to Pune and Bombay, and both of them have such big IT and other office part that a lot of them just come there, and it's just a 2.5 hour drive from Pune, so it's mostly for leisure.
Okay. And also want to know if you accept all the queries you get through Airbnb or you buffer a few of them.
Uh, I accept almost all. I sometimes only reject ones when some guests are like too pushy with the pricing,
Ask
and
multiple questions.
multiple questions is fine because it's okay. It just shows that these guys want to know everything before stepping in. But sometimes when the questions are really unreasonable, or you can already, see that oh, they are not even putting any effort to see the listing or read up, then I try to avoid. But that is very rare.
Okay. And have you had like a really long-term stay?
No, I think the maximum I have hosted someone was for 7 days, not more than that.
Okay, okay. And you provide complimentary breakfast and all that, right?
No, like I mentioned earlier, I used to earlier, but there are some guests who don't want the complimentary breakfast. So instead, I have again added it to the menu, and I'm like, order whatever you want. It's very tricky with complimentary breakfast, like how much will one eat and what would they need is very tricky to assess. So I'm like, here's the menu, whatever you need, just one night in advance, let us know, and we'll try to make that.
Okay, nice, super. And coming to a close, what is the number one tip you would give to fellow Indian Airbnb hosts?
Be patient and communicate fully.
Awesome, man. All right, Jeet, it was really nice talking to you, and I'm sure the this episode is packed with a lot of nice nuggets which Airbnb hosts can take. And yeah, that was pretty cool, man. Nice talking to you.
Same here. Thanks for having me.
Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to the Airbnb Tales podcast episode number 6. I hope you liked this podcast episode and I hope you learned something out of it through. So if you guys want extra information or maybe the links which Indrajeet mentioned throughout this episode, you can go to airbnbtales.com/06. We got all the information there and it's going to be helpful a ton for your Airbnb hosting as well. Also guys, please subscribe and review us on iTunes or whichever podcast platform you're listening to. That's it for today. I hope to see you guys soon, and we've got great guests lined up in the future, so tune in to the Airbnb Tales podcast for some great stories of hosting and travel.